What's up, guys? Welcome back for another episode of The Golden Nugget with your girl, Sam. I'm so glad you guys tuned back in today. Listen, we're going to piggyback off of last week's Golden Nugget because it seemed to really hit a nerve with a lot of y'all. And that's kind of special for me because I feel like maybe we're going through some of the same things at the same time. I shared a little bit about my therapy journey with you all, and I want to share a little more a conversation that I have seen and personally had with multiple friends and family members is this point in healing that we kind of jokingly call the void. And I had a chance to talk to my therapist about this, and turns out this is a real serious season in healing. This is legit. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not crazy. And so if this sounds like something that you're experiencing, you are not alone, sister. Okay, so this is the way that I described it to her. Like emotional flatness, where you're not necessarily in pain anymore, but you're also not feeling joy, excitement, or motivation like you used to. Like you're feeling kind of numb. If you find yourself sleeping more than normal or not being drawn to activities that you used to immediately go to. For example, I would spend 2 hours in the bathtub. Like it was a ritual for me. I would plan it out. I had a candle, I had my bath salts and oils and tinctures and all the things. And once I hit that bathtub, it was an act of God and Congress to get me out. I would gravitate to the same meals over and over. They were my comfort meals, or I had like a certain playlist that I would play over and over and just like jam my way to work. And I've found myself not even wanting to get in a bath or driving to work either completely silent or just having like a really calm podcast in the background turned really low. And it started stressing me out because I was like, what is going on with me? Am I hitting menopause? Am I losing my mind? Am I losing like my self identity? I'm not as fun as I used to be. I'm not as outgoing as I used to be. I really love being home. And I mean, I've always loved taking naps, but this goes beyond naps. Like, I feel like I could hibernate and be just fine. And so I took some notes and I'm going to share those with you because it was so freeing to hear her response and it made so much sense. And it brought me a lot of peace. So this is called the void phase of healing. So number one is your nervous system is resting. After years of hypervigilance or survival mode, your system finally gets quiet. And that quiet can feel scary or empty if you're used to chaos or pain. That brings me to this saying that it reminded me of you'll always revert back to a familiar chaos than an unfamiliar peace. And that is so true. Like we will run back into a familiar burning building, which explains why we tend to return back to toxic relationships or toxic friendships, or it's so hard for us to cleanly cut ties with like a dramatic family member or a toxic job because there is some level of familiarity about that, which it's a false sense of security. Whereas if you remove yourself from that situation, it feels unfamiliar in the beginning, and peace can feel super unfamiliar if all you've ever known is fight or flight, chaos, drama, toxic situations, which is exactly what I pretty much had my whole life. I mean, from childhood, my parents were very volatile with one another. My mom was untreated bipolar. And so she went through her seasons of mania and then depression. You know, my dad struggled with his own mental health issues with depression and anxiety. And so I quickly learned as a child to read the room and correct my actions accordingly. Like I had to walk on eggshells and keep everybody happy. Even though it wasn't going to work, in the end, there was still going to be a certain level of chaos and drama and trauma. And so I functioned that way and well into my adulthood, not realizing how to heal from this or how to stop these cycles and cut these behaviors out of my life. And so I functioned in high cortisol function, high fight or flight situations. And so that's what I learned to really thrive in and function in. And so stepping out of that, super unfamiliar and really uncomfortable, but I've made myself stick with this healing journey. And there are some days truly that you may feel like you're losing your mind. Like it's like nails on a chalkboard. You don't know what to do with yourself, but please keep going. The second point was that you could be between identities. So you're no longer the version of yourself that was in trauma. Ding, 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 ding. Remember me saying I was boring? Like I used to be the life of the party. I was up for anything because I was seeking that constant adrenaline dump. But you haven't fully stepped into your empowered, joyful self yet. This middle space feels weird and blank. And this blank page is exactly what you need to start writing out your new identity. This is the space where you get to decide how you're going to move forward, what your days are going to look like, the type of person you're going to be, what you're going to accept from other people, the job that you want, the opportunities that you want, X, Y, and Z, period. The next point is grief is working silently. Grieving the old you, the old life, or lost time can create a fog. Sometimes we grieve through silence, not tears. And listen, there was a point in time after I lost my dad, and I felt like I lost him without being able to have that storybook closure. And I cried for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I don't know if I necessarily cried grieving him or the loss of the relationship that I had dreamed up in my head that we would one day have after, this crescendo of a healing journey was over. And I finally got to a point where I couldn't cry anymore. And all that was left was silence, that silent, still type of grief. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know if that was normal to feel. But I'm here to tell you that is absolutely healthy and normal. The last one is you're unlearning addictive cycles of intensity, drama, pain, anxiety. Even when we hate them, they release chemicals into our brain that we get used to. Peace can feel boring or unmotivating at first. Listen, it is so true that we can get addicted to cortisol, adrenaline, those dopamine dumps. If you are used to being in a high stress situation or a high conflict situation, it's not that you are a toxic person. Your body learns how to protect you. And so it will release chemicals and hormones that will keep you safe and keep you thriving. So, listen, it's okay to go through a detox phase. And detoxing is not social media beautiful. I feel like that's become such a catchphrase. Like, I'm going through a detox. I'm going through a social media detox. I'm doing a cleanse. I'm doing it, whatever. You're drinking juice. You're fasting carbs. Listen, this type of detox is going to push you to the brink of your sanity, and then it's going to push you over the edge with a little whisper that says, "You're crazy, sister." You're not. You are literally, physically, emotionally, mentally healing. And healing is an action word. It's a verb. You are putting in work, you're putting in time, you're putting in effort, and it's like running. You're not going to immediately jump out of the gate running a 5K, right? You're going to be winded within your first couple of blocks. But if you stick with it, you're going to run a little further and a little further and a little further each time. And that's what it's like on your day-to-day healing journey. Every day, you're going to get a little further and a little better. And so taking time to give yourself, one, a whole lot of grace and understanding through this, and two, figuring out how to rebuild on the foundation of a healed heart. That's going to take time and work as well, but I'm telling you, it is the most beautiful and positive experience that you'll ever give yourself the time to do. So, guys, thank you so much for logging in today. Listen, I want you to head over to elitelifewithsam.com, over to our membership site, sign up. Even if all you can do is the Broke Bestie, which is $2.99 a month, that gets you your profile and gets you into the conversation. But our High Class Hooligans is amazing. We do bonus features, early releases. We've got merch coming. You get to vote on podcast guests. You can put your questions in for the guests. You get early access to stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on. We'd love to see you over there in our online community, and that's elitelifewithsam.com. Make sure that you're following us on all of the socials, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's it, actually. It's Elite Life with Sam. Be part of the conversation and rate and review anywhere that you listen to the podcast. Oh, yeah, we're on YouTube as well. Bye.